Okay, we will come back to the City Delivery Committee. And I did, at the start of the meeting, just want to recognise what a fabulous set of Anzac Day services that were managed by Tauranga City Council. I attended the Mount Dawn service, and I know around my colleagues that all of the services were attended and very positive feedback came from them, so well done to the staff. And on a sadder note, Kev did want me to recognise Denny Mohi, and who sadly died on his way to an Anzac service, second highest, 156 caps for rugby for the Bay, so a positive and a negative on that, that I could have said this morning. So we are now looking at the 10.4, third quarter 25-26 capital program performance with Alex Johnson and Craig Rice. Over to you.
Thank you. And this connects to the previous item, so I'll pass to Alex, who will provide a brief summary and then we can open it up for questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, elected members. It's my pleasure to present to you the quarter capital program. This has a revised budget of the 452 and current expenditure to the end of March of 280 million. This is in line with the financial reports you've just received from the finance team. There are currently 239 active projects, with project delivery groups across the teams combined reporting around about 11% less expenditure for this time. None of the current active projects are reported as red status. And we have a further 18 projects that are on hold. You've got the attachments for the red and the on hold projects as well as the overall projects. The obvious and greatest risk to the program at the moment is cost escalations with the Iran war and the fuel escalations costs. We are actively managing this, and we continue to deliver the programs in line with the annual long-term budget. This is more likely to affect the future financial year, but we are actively managing that. We have a team looking at running scenarios, and we will be escalating that if we need to. To date, we have completed 3 stage gates. So I think last time I spoke to you, we were looking at introducing stage gate. We've currently delivered 3 projects gone through the stage gate review committee. Further 2 actually went through last Friday. I haven't had time to see how they went. I wasn't here. But they've been approved with subject to further conditions, mostly related to around completedness with documentation, etc. But yeah, if there are no further questions, I'll ask the council receives the report as read.
There will be some questions, I'm afraid. Mayor Mahe.
Yeah, I guess looking at this, where I'm sort of struggling is there is no context to these numbers. So if I look through if we're on page, what page is that? 49, the capital program budget. So, major transport, we're 14% under budget. So I go, yay, how great is that? But I have no context. Is that because we've under-delivered, or is that because we're delivering it at 14% less than budget? So, we need some way of being able to understand, where that variance comes from. Is it under-delivery, or is it under budget?
Susan's just arrived. I don't know if that's to rescue me or to add some context.
Where it might be helpful is looking back at the financial section of the previous report, where there's that project budget adjustments table. where there has been a true giving up of budget, so budget savings, you will see that in a reduction of budget. So if it's just a deferral, it will come through as a project deferral. So we can certainly have our heads together as to how we might be able to translate more of that into
Yeah,
these
well, at the
slides.
moment that graph is completely useless to me because I have no way of, so you might as well not have that, just tell me whether things are under budget or not. You know, so we need some additional column or some way to be able to report.
True savings.
Yeah, what is the context of that?
Sure.
Like, you know, we're 7% over budget in waters. Does that mean we've done more, or does it mean that we've spent too much? You know, so yeah, I just think the reporting is important, and you can say we can look back in some other report and find out, but I didn't put that together, so you know, I think, and it's, you know, goes right through all these other, we've put in all now these, you know, community infrastructure, you've got all these different columns, but it still doesn't give us the information that gives you a little bit better, I guess, because you assume that the projects, but if a project falls outside the long-term budget, then you won't see it as well. So, yeah, it's just being, you know, very clear and concise would be useful.
I've got another note, just which I've said before, Alex, I don't know if you were here. Just in terms of the purpose of the report, can we always ask that it says to update the committee on the progress of the capital program, highlighting any significant changes from the last report and noting any opportunities or risks that should be brought to council. So it's just really saying, right at the purpose should always include those highlighting significant changes and bringing opportunities and risks to the committee, please. A second question on, because you did mention the changes that might be made from fuel related, and there's a comment in the middle of page 46 on the centralised control and monitoring approach. Can we have as an action that the commercial team reports to the next delivery committee on the details of any agreements that have been approved? It talks about the fact that there's a approval process, but it would be good, as you've raised it with us, to understand what's happened there, please. And just on the PowerPoint, that's all part of this. I just found it a little bit hard. Good to have the individual slides, but we don't have an opening slide that says you're going to get 8 more slides and these are the totals on them, and they add up to the 403 million that we've been reported to in other papers. So just again, bit of context around where we're at. And I have already said to Craig that we just need to make sure our headings on all of our slides are consistent across the organisation, please. They get a bit project budget and total forecast and it's just a little bit hard to understand that the approved annual plan, are they approved annual plan with adjustments? So we just need some consistency, which Craig is working on. Tangata Whenua Representative Jackie Rolleston-Steed, please. Sorry, I was halfway through that in my head before I came out.
Yeah, it's rather long-winded, isn't it? Just probably going back to the similar point around the fuel and petroleum potential issue, and maybe it's kind of more of an audit and risk kind of conversation, but I wonder as well, I'm aware that regionally in the Bay of Plenty we're in a refresh of the regional fuel plan, and in line with that regional fuel plan will be that critical customer list will be defined. So I wonder if there's an opportunity to start engaging in some conversations that might be project specific, because some of those projects might fall in that, well, definitely there'll be projects that will fall within that critical customer list. So I'm not too sure how they're going to go about, I guess, having conversations with territorial authorities, but just something to keep in mind, I think.
Through you, Madam Chair, I just want to respond to that. We'd be happy to talk to the project teams. We're currently undertaking a survey of all the contracts that are upcoming to all the project managers, and we can definitely take on board and report back on any critical customer lists. So, yeah, happy to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Hi, tēnā koutou ngā mihi. Great to hear that we're either prepared or preparing for what else may come from the geopolitical climate. I have 2 comments and 2 questions. Real brief. Comment number 1, haukore reserve to the team involved in that great work. I was there for the opening and in the afternoon after school, and it was just great to hear the hum and the kids and families just generally enjoying that space. Taking on board the feedback for these reports moving forward. I really like these reports. For me, it's simple and easy to read. The other thing is, Alex, I met your son. Great young man. He works at one of my favourite eat spots, Lloyd's Deli. Yeah, and I think that's a reflection of some great parenting. So, ngā mihi kia koe. But my questions are the rapid deployable projects. That there's a orangey yellow highlight part there. This is on page 64. Are the 2? So there's 2 mini bullet points. 2 have community concerns which are being addressed, and then the second one is some projects are at risk of not being delivered. Are either of those the Welcome Bay Road / Ohauiti intersection projects, or are they? Okay, got the nod from Mike. So you're right. Mike's just given me the answer to that question. That's Kate Pai. So my other question is, are you guys able to estimate either the efficiency gains or savings made from, I'm going to call it the Stargate, because I liked the show Stargate SG-1, but the Stagegate, the Stagegate process? Are you guys able to quantify in any measurable way what kind of impact that process is having?
Yes, so it is early days. We've only just kicked it off, but anecdotally, the things that we're seeing is probably more internal, a robustness of project management and increasing our maturity. So there's a lot of reflection for those projects that are coming up, and there's a good set standard of what is expected by the Stagegate Review Committee. And so we're seeing already a real increase in our project data integrity and our completeness of our project management documentation. That said, there's a lot of conversation within those 3 that we've already had around that value for money. So a lot of the work and the conversations become around procurement, how we're procuring and making sure that we're using the right methods. But nothing tangible, nothing, nothing I can quantify at the moment, but just, anecdotally, that's what we're saying. There's good conversations, robust conversations around ensuring that they are following a really good process, completedness of documentation, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Taylor.
I'm going to get right into some specifics, which I try not to do, but my interest is piqued because we talked, must be 18 months ago now, roughly, on Tarakura Drive, and the way we went about that, I think we were putting concrete down instead of asphalt. And then on page 62, it says we've saved $16 million on that. Is that correct? Does someone know?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, it's not $16 million. Please don't get our hopes up. But it is the note down there that 2.7 is what we were able to save through that project. Largely because there were 2 projects that the scope got combined, and then we had budgets remaining in certain areas and we had to sort of treat it that way. But just fundamentally, 2.7 was the savings we made on Tarakura Drive.
So the 16 million, is that something that hasn't happened yet, or is it?
So there was originally a proposal to have a bus interchange inside the shopping centre, and with the changes in government funding, that was no longer able to be funded by the agency. So the project had to make a quick, rather rapid decision to do something. And that resulted in the bus hub that we've got there. So, and that meant we had budgeted for one thing, we were unable to do it, the budget sort of remained, and that's how you get sort of a variance that looks a bit odd.
I guess that's a prime example, though, of without context. So how can we report that we, the projects that we delivered were X amount and this is what we delivered it for? Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, Alex, I'm just wondering, can you clarify for me the red and the red, amber, green section and how that correlates to the status and the overall status of those projects on page 49? Because you sort of have major transports all green, but then you look in the very first one in there, the 15th turret is red. And so there's a number of issues like that in amongst all these. And I'm just trying to understand, I'm obviously not understanding what the red, amber, green is showing me.
Through you, Madam Chair. We have a set of what you refer to them as a matrix, I guess, of what red, amber, green means across our scope, costs, resources, and quality, and then that equates to what an overall is. So I can't remember off the cuff what that equates to, but if you have so many reds, greens, it equates to an overall red status. The 15th Ave one was put in the report. It has been reclassified as amber, so it's not actually any longer a red project. Has been reclassified.
So through the chair, we've got, in one part it says it's red, another part it says it's green, but it's actually amber. It sort of makes it quite tricky to know where we're at with it. I have my own sources of information, but it'd be quite good to be transparent. But another one, for instance, the library community hub, which I believe is set to open very soon, and we've been told everything's absolutely tickety-boo and we're getting some money back from contingency, but the last two, red, amber, greens, are red. So again, I'm struggling to understand. I can understand if these were micro, like you've talked about, there'll be all sorts of, complex spreadsheets with all sorts of matrices and things where there'll be some reds. But overall, why is the LCH a red? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Through you, Madam Chair, so I don't have that on me at the moment. But I can find that information and come back to you, Councillor.
Yeah, it'd be quite good actually for all those reds. I guess through the chair, my suggestion would be a bit like the Mayor's comment that it sort of gets decoded, because at the moment I think it's so unuseful that we kind of just go, oh, okay, it's red, and then I don't think we do anything about it. So it'd be really good to just have a shorter set of commentary at the end, I would think. That'd be my suggestion, which just goes, LCH is red because of X, and I have no idea what it'd be. But normally I would have thought red would be pretty serious, and meaning stop or something along those lines, whereas amber is more what I would have thought LCH might be if it's got a couple of things we've got to sort out. But it would help us to hone in on those, because otherwise I don't feel we do much in terms of changing the course of any of these projects.
Through you, Madam Chair, take that on board, and we'll have a look at that report and get back to you. Yeah.
No other questions? Thank you, Alex and Craig and Susan. We've got a recommendation from staff on page to receive the report. Can I have a mover and seconder? Thank you, Councillor Baker. Councillor Crowther, do you want to speak to it? Any comments on this? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? That is carried. Thank you. We'll now go to 10.5, major projects update, transport. Page 94. Thank you, Rick. Welcome, Chris. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you. It's good to be here, first meeting. I'm just going to do a short introduction and then hand over to Chris because he is obviously very much across these projects. Yep.
Yes,
Can you
please.
hear me? Yes, I thought. Without. So just in terms of, this is the major projects, the major transport projects that are already sort of almost at completion or in progress. And so in terms of the Papamoa interchange, you'll all be aware that that was opened recently, and it has been a project. And I saw that there were some questions from the mayor around the financial position of that project, and Chris is going to be able to answer those. Did note the questions, Councillor Skula, that around the risks and opportunities, and we'll take that on board for the future report. In terms of the risks as we move forward, probably the key ones around Tariko and then the Welcome Bay are around, particularly for Tariko, the future risks are around managing the traffic impacts as you come through. There's some more minor risks associated with that, but that would really be the major as we move through that project. It is progressing well in terms of being sort of on budget and on time. There was significant works that were undertaken during January. One of the things that Chris will talk about is we are waiting on an updated program for that project from Downer, and until we have that, we won't be able to assure the councillors that it will be completed on time, but we're expecting that program in the next couple of weeks. In terms of the Welcome Bay, there's a go no go around the bridge, and the decision there as to whether, from a seismic perspective and a load perspective, it is able to take that load, and that work is being completed at present, and so that will be a decision that will come back to council. And then, subject to that decision, working through the design process over the coming year. We're looking to have a 50% design for that in the middle of this year, and then 100% design in the middle of the following year. So I'll hand over to Chris, and he can then take you through the rest of the report.
Yeah, kia ora everyone. So further to Jane's overview, yep, we do have the report from page 94. So the report does highlight changes from the previous reports and current key risks and opportunities, but we take the Mayor's, the Chair's point on board, and happy to take the action to highlight those elements further in future reports. So
and just change the purpose, please.
Yep. Thank you for that direction. So as provided in the overview, construction of PEI is complete, and the report does provide a summary of the financial performance.
You can take the report as read.
Yep.
Please.
So yeah, I'm happy to take the report as read, and yeah, happy to take any questions. I think Jane's provided a good overview there. Thank you.
Me Mahe.
Yeah, thank you. Look, looking at the PEI, I think this is a fantastic example if the numbers stack up. I guess my questions around that is, it seems like we've built a $79 million project. This is just phase 3 works. $79 million project for $56 million. I'm not complaining about that at all. I think that's exactly, and we should be, crying from the rooftops really around, the effective delivery. I guess my questions are, that seems like a significant contingency to have, but we have protected it, which is good. So why was the contingency so large? And secondly, I'd love to see a report and ask, why has this been such a good project? Because we need to learn from this and deliver a lot more for these. So that's my two questions. Why is the contingency so large? And, what can we learn from this to continue to deliver these sort of projects with these significant or release of budgets?
Yeah, thank you. I can take that question in a couple of parts. So firstly, probably reference in paragraph 14 on page 96. I think is the diagram you're referring to. So you can see to the first question was the contingency so large. Originally, there was a baseline budget at the time of going to the construction works tender. We did receive quite a favourable tender response from one of the tenderers. At that point in time, you can see from the original baseline budget graph, you can see the green bar, which represents the contingency, and the blue, which represents the funding risk. So that's our kind of original cost estimate range. The favourable tender price lowered the base estimate, but the decision, because of that low tender price, we perceived there was potentially some additional risk associated with that. So at that point in time, the decision was made to retain the budget as it currently stood, and effectively it increased the contingency at that point in time. Since that point in time, so our process within our major projects is we consistently we take three levels of cost estimates throughout the life of the project. So we're estimating a base estimate, which you can see by the yellow graph there, a P50 expected estimate, which includes some contingency and risk, and generally that's what we assess to be the 50% of projects will come in under that budget and 50% will go over. So that's generally why we call it the expected estimate. And then there's a P95 estimate, which is indicated by the blue. So that's if a lot of the risks are realised, that's kind of the upper band of where the costs could go. So as projects progress, we expect the cost estimate range to reduce as costs are better understood, risks are understood. And you can see in this case for the Papamoa East Interchange project, as works have progressed, updated cost reviews have tracked roughly in accordance with the base estimate. So you can see a lot of that contingency that was there. That reflects that, again, the management and a lot of those risks that were allowed for have not been realised for a variety of reasons. That's the overview of, I guess, the cost estimate range. There is a broader range at the front end, and we expect that to refine. So that's just a visual representation, I guess, of what happens across other projects as well, but coming to the fore there. In terms of what's gone well, the intention was to probably come back with a more detailed project closeout report, potentially to the next committee meeting once we've kind of worked through some of those final elements. But I think a couple of points around that. I think the stage delivery approach we adopted, we're particularly doing a lot of the early preloading works, de-risked some of the subsequent phases, so that's been beneficial. I think our construction procurement approach for the phase 3 works, it wasn't a full ECI, but we got the contractor involved early, and particularly as part of that final detailed design update, the contractor was already inputting into those final deliverables, and that helped reduce the risk once we actually got into the construction phase. I think some of the key risks, such as unforeseen ground conditions, haven't necessarily been realised, has contributed a lot to some of that underspent contingency. And I think also there's also been a good team across the board, and that's not internally, like we have, well, partly internally, but also externally, we have created good relationships with the contractor. It's been a good collaborative environment created within that, and the team's had a strong focus on risk mitigation right from the outset. So it was comprehensive. We undertook quantitative risk assessments. We really targeted what some of those key risk areas were at the front end of the job, and really had a strong approach on what actions do we need to put in place to really mitigate against those risks and prevent them being realised, which has, again, been, I think, part of why a lot of those risks haven't been realised as the project's progressed and reflected in the updated financials. So that's a high-level summary, and we can bring back. The other factor is we have taken a lot of lessons learnt from other previous projects as well. So I think that's been another factor, and that's a continued maturity perspective that we'll look to continue to adopt as well. So
No, that's awesome. And then just that 56 million that we did spend, what does that compare to the contract award?
So the $56 million is the project price, the total project cost. The original contract award value, going off memory, was somewhere around 46, and I think the total contract out to, well, I'll need to go double check, but I think it was somewhere in the 48 kind of range as a final outturn cost. So
If we just see that in the final report, that would be great.
Yep,
But
we can reflect that. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Marty, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Chris alluded to the fact that we've learnt from the past, and I think the Cameron Road Stage 1 was a project that we reviewed independently, and as a result of that, we established the major projects transport team and structure. And so this is the first major project that's been delivered through that structure and through that team. And so congratulations, Chris, on a great job. Well done. So.
Thank you, Marty. Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, I'd just like to follow up a little bit more on the Mayor's question, because I've tried to get my head around the finances, and there is a lot of community interest in it, and I think it'd be really helpful to have the funding stack as well as the actual costs. But to give an example of what, just scanning through, like in the last year we've been told total project funding including waters is 100 million, total project cost is 98 million. We're now told the total project budget was 116.4 million. We've been told the LTP budget was 79.3. We've been told the estimated cost at completion 6 months ago was 65 million to 74. Now we're saying the estimated final outrun cost will be 56 against 79, which was different again. The vesting of the asset will be 63, and the total project outrun cost is now 90.8. Now, I don't know if anyone can explain all those, but I think they should be explained because it is important, and it's a big initiative that Marty did to introduce this process. And we're talking so many millions that I could build all sorts of wonderful things across the city with them if we take some numbers, and other numbers it looks like we've actually blown the budget. And so it's really helpful if we can get that crystal clear.
Can I make a comment? And I think obviously there is a lack of clarity, so we need to come back to this committee with that, and it is a good question. It's always quite challenging because what is the budget? What is the spend? What is the risk profile? All of those numbers will be different, and also those numbers will change as you move through the project cycle, because as the risks are realised and or not realised and pass, that number comes down. So I think I take your point, and obviously it's not clear and we will come back, but all of those numbers that you mentioned are not a bad news story. They are all just numbers that are in different spaces, and we will come back with a table and an explanation when we provide this report.
And I think through the chair, in particular for me, the key things are that there was going to be 23 million cost to ratepayers. What that sort of ended up, in other words, we'll presumably get a lower NZTA portion. You know, why didn't we get the full 51%? I still am not sure. All those kind of things that have an impact, like on the ground for our people here. But the other one is to do, rather than just kind of go, oh, we didn't need the contingency. Often on the projects, you know you're not going to need the contingency unless something bad happens. So it's like, how does this stack up against some of the other ones where...
Are you asking questions, Councillor Crowther, or
No,
making
I'm
suggestions on
making
how
s-
operations
making
report
s-
back to you?
I'm making suggestions like if that could be taken as a, what is it, we're calling it, an action point, that'd be helpful.
Well, I think the Mayor has already raised that, and he's going to get a presentation back. I'm going to go to Steve and then to Jackie.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Looking at the Turret Road / Haireni Bridge, back at one of our workshops in 2025, we were estimating to have a go, no-go on the feasibility of the bridge by the end of 2025, and now we're looking at mid-2026. What's the reason for the delay in terms of that structural assessment? Because we've got to be starting something.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So the updated, I think at the time, that was probably prior to a lot of the ECI procurement process, where I think that process, in terms of getting our supplier on board, took longer than what we were originally allowing for and anticipating. So that's probably been one of the key drivers behind some of this. When we did award, there were a few complicating factors in terms of availability of the physical testers, which had around the Christmas break, etc. At that point in time. So that did have an implication within that element of the job, and that's what's resulted in effectively the revised timeframes for that structural assessment component. In association with that, we are still working with the delivery team in terms of the overall design phase still being delivered in accordance with the original timeframes. So we are anticipating that by mid-27, we're hoping to have the design completed, ready to go, and through to that next phase. So as part of that, we're also looking at the sequencing and programming of that kind of design phase, and looking at opportunities to bring some components forward to make that as efficient as possible as well. So, that's, I guess, as an overarching update. Yes, there's been some delays to that structural component, but we have been looking at the project as a whole and looking to, as a whole, we're still on track to deliver within the construction timeframes of what we were originally anticipating.
How confident are you that by 30th of June this year, we'll have the go, no-go for the bridge, because we're kind of stuck in the middle?
I think we'll certainly have a comprehensive update to inform a direction from the council. I think one of the fundamentals to date, we're still waiting on the detailed structural analysis, but my understanding is, anecdotally, things are looking pretty positive in that space, which is constructive. So that's, our plan is at the next committee meeting we will come back with a more detailed update on the status of that structural assessment, whether that's a decision point or at least to provide some provide some updated direction on where things are at.
Tangata Whenua Representative Jackie Rollason-Steed. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, good, thank you. Thanks, Chris, for that. My question's just around the state highway-related projects, and just thinking particularly you've obviously got your Tauriko enabling works, but then there's other roads that obviously are not purposeful around any related project, for example, Takitimu Northern Link Stage 1. So my question's around whether or not there's any planned or anticipated road revocations and the changes of ownership from NZTA through to council. Just trying to understand whether or not you've kind of factored in any associated long-term costs or service implications, and even whatever opportunities are associated to those revocation or those roads of revocation.
Short answer, yes, there is a road revocation process. It's a separate project, particularly around State Highway 2, in relation to the Takitimu Northlink project that's going on. It sits outside of my remit, so I'm not able to comment on that one any further. I am also aware that in the long term, NZTA, with their proposed RONZ Tauriko project, would potentially be looking at a long-term revocation of the existing State Highway 29 through that section. Again, that's a very long-term outcome, and there's not active discussions on that component. But I understand there is a separate project in relation to the potential State Highway 2 revocation. I'm not able to comment further on that. Sorry.
That's okay. You just had identified some of the opportunities in relation to Tauriko West, so maybe what was the financial implications, but that's cool. Thank you.
Okay, there being no further questions other than Councillor Crowthers. It's a question, please, not a statement.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you can reconcile, Chris, that we were told when we arrived on the scene here that 15th turret would be completed by January of 2028. And you made the statement, I think, about the no delay. I look at it and I go, we have a 1.25 year delay. And I'm pretty clear on that, having tracked at every meeting I've been at in transport committees. My question is, how on earth is that happening if the reason for doing ECI was to deliver quicker? That was a key factor for that. I know it was better as well, but can you please try to explain that to me?
In terms of, I'll need to go back and reflect on the status of the project at that time. In terms of the timeframes of when the business case was adopted and the financial profiles that have been in place, that's where we've been working towards the baseline of that later 2028, early 29, as at that point in time was the estimated construction timeframes. So I can't comment on the early 28, sorry. But yes, the intention around ECI was to go fast. I think my reflection on that is it will go fast, particularly once we get towards the back end, but it's taken longer at the front end to get the team on board, up to speed. But particularly once that design phase is completed, potentially we've got a team on board ready to roll straight into construction, rather than the traditional process. You might have been a bit further along with the design phase, but then you'd have a stop and a tendering process to get your construction contractor on board. So that's point noted, but we can come back with an updated baseline, but that is effectively that's the current program that we're looking at.
I was just going to make a comment too around the ECI contract, and Chris is right. They often, at the front end, can be a bit slower but it's the identification of the risks and the ownership of the risks by the contractor, as opposed to them not having a say in them. So that can take some time, but it does, in the longer term of the delivery of a project, generally save time.
Thank you very much. That's the end of questions. So I'm happy to move the motion that the City Delivery Committee receives the report, Major Project Update Transport. Can I have a seconder? Mayor Mahe, thank you. I don't want to add anything. Anybody needing to add anything? Councillor Crowther.
I'm very concerned about our major transport projects. I feel that we have allowed this to get out of control a bit. We have what I'm understanding to be a drop-dead deadline for Cameron Road Stage 2. We're engaging now to figure out how we progress that or not. But if it goes ahead, the interface between 15th Tara and Cameron Road is critical in terms of the timeframes. And we haven't had any Transport Committee meetings, as we know, for a long time. So I feel this is a major oversight from governance. So I'm not sort of pointing the finger at staff, but just saying we chose how to progress this. We had really good tailwinds from the government for funding compared to most projects around the Bay of Plenty. This is something that a lot of things were in our favour. The costs were looking really good if we progress quickly. We now have the global situation, as it's been called, which is, I would say, a headwind, would be my guess. And I'm not making predictions there, but I don't think it'll be a tailwind. And I can just see that we have, and you know, there are, just to be really blunt, there are meetings being held, there are managers from this organisation not turning up to meetings, there are all sorts of other things happening. There are people really concerned about this, and I think we as governance have taken our eyes off the ball. We haven't got the right forum to actually work through this. So we need to actually have a better pathway, in my view, between the major projects, what's it called now, oversight group, and the governance of this council. And it was going to be, at one point, through the Joint Transport Committee. So I would personally like to see it through that committee, but if not, it needs to be through here. And it needs to be a different kind of report, which actually gets us a bit more insight into what's really happening on the ground there, because there are concerns, and I think we could end up with a real mess in this city with transport if we're not careful.
Do you want an action on that, Councillor Crowther?
Well, I'd love all that to be action, but I don't know. I've said the same thing before pretty much, but it never gets action.
Well, we do have an action list that does get action, so would you like to put an action together?
I'd like to have a direct report to the Joint Transport Committee from the Major Projects Governance Group, or Oversight Group we called it. I'd like to have a better understanding.
Hang on, just watch that being typed and don't go ahead of it, please.
A direct report to the Transport Committee.
I'd like to understand why on the 15th...
From the...
Sorry. To the Joint Transport Committee from the... Is it called Major Projects Oversight Group still? I don't know. Whoever Marty thinks from that conglomerate.
Well, what is it you want reported? You want an update on where these projects are at, because essentially that's what this report does. Can that report be provided to the joint committee when it meets, and someone from Chris can go along, or Jane can come along and speak to it?
I'm looking at the equivalent of the Te Manawataki o Te Papa board reporting to us in an interactive way on the Te Manawataki project, the equivalent of that for the major transports projects, so that we actually have a little bit more, we go a layer deeper on this. And the other one is to have I guess, an understanding of why I am being told that there are meetings where people are not turning up from the council to all the meetings. So to get a clearer understanding of some of that stuff, of why we're not actually getting a good gel on that 15th turret Welcome Bay project.
Could I ask you to put a couple of sentences together as an action when we break for lunch, which
Sure.
is happening shortly?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a recommendation on the table, moved and seconded. I ask all of those in favour, say aye. Against, that is carried. We are now breaking, a bit delayed, for lunch with our CCOs in the Councillor Lounge. Nice to see you all here. And we will resume at 1:30 for our CCOs updates. Okay, we are going to return to the City Delivery Committee this Tuesday, the 28th of April. Welcome to the chairs and CEEs of our council-controlled organisations. Welcome, Caro. We've got a paper that we are walking through 10.6, page 100 in the open agenda, the first one. Are we going to take questions or do the presentations first?
If it's okay with you, Deputy Mayor, we'll do the presentations first in the order of your run sheet.
So we've changed 4 and 5, 5
Yeah.
and 4, yes.
Yeah, and after each presentation, the CCOs are happy to take questions.
Right.
Yeah, cool.
So we've allocated 10 minutes to each. Ideally, if you finish at 7 or 8, then it just gives us time for questions, please. Welcome to Bay Venues, to Chad and Adam. So no timer? Yeah, there's a timer. Don't you worry. Up here somewhere? Up there? No. There. I've got, yeah. And you can move those devices so each of you have one if you want one. They don't need to be plugged in.
That's fine. Kia ora koutou. Thank you for taking the opportunity to speak with us today. Apologies, firstly, on behalf of our board, we didn't have anyone available, so I've got Adam, one of my general managers, with me today. And we'll move through some things reasonably quickly. You would have noticed that our half-year report was a little bit different from what you might have seen in the past. We've tried to make it a bit more interactive and using digital methods to be able to track back through things. So just wanted to identify that first up. And just a quick overview of where we're at the moment as an organisation. We're tracking really well financially. It's challenging at the moment, but we're on track with where we need to be. And we're delivering some really strong outcomes from a community perspective. You would have noticed in the report that our statement of intent targets, a lot of them are a work in progress, and we're on track with those. There's a few that we have missed for various reasons, but generally things are tracking well. Although I did want to have a crack at Karo for putting things in orange, when I think they probably could have been green to make it look better, but that's a minor point. The organisation is in good heart. We've got some amazing people in our business doing really good work across a range of different sectors in the community. And we're working hard to manage the demand for space within our facilities across the board, and obviously working closely with council around what new facilities might look like as well. In terms of those SOI targets that we missed, there were 3 that we haven't achieved at this stage. One is around our team engagement, where we were targeting 65%. We got 63%, so just below, and it was a 5% increase on where we were last year, having been through some restructures. So that's a positive step forward, even if it wasn't quite where we needed to be. Energy use we're struggling with a little bit at the moment, mainly because we're having more facilities and more things happening. So we're finding that we're using more power as more things are going on. And finally, we had one serious harm incident in relation to pools, and I'll speak to that in a moment around how we're responding to that. In terms of our key performance targets, we're on track financially, and we are on track to deliver a small surplus at the end of the year. We're not going to get too excited about the quantum of that, but it's nice to be on the right track. You will note there that with the forecast numbers, that both allows for receiving insurance to cover the hot pools being closed over this current calendar year. Our customer satisfaction ratings are, basically on target. We're pretty close. We're confident that we'll be at 85% at the end of the year. And for the 6 months to the end of December, we were tracking nicely ahead of our visitation targets. Obviously, that will be impacted with the hot pools being out of commission at the moment. In terms of some highlights, we have had a range of really fabulous events over through our facilities over that first 6 months of the year. We had Magic Netball, Ames Games, big civil contractors conference, a couple of Indian weddings, which were a bit different for us, and then Te Mana Kuratahi, which was the National Primary Schools Kapahaka Festival, and then we ended the year with Famous Last Words as well. So some big highlights coming through from an event perspective. Another key highlight for us has been operating Haumaru. So we had nearly a year of that to now, but the first 6 months. And the utilisation of that has been great, and we've had really positive feedback from the community. So it's a well-used and well-loved facility already, and picked up a merit award at the 2025 Recreation Aotearoa Awards as well, which was nice. And we've got a first birthday celebration coming up for that facility in May as well, if you wanted to come along and have some fun. I mentioned that we've actually had a couple of serious aquatic incidents. We had already been working on, from the start of last year, a new drowning detection system, which is AI enabled. We pushed ahead to get that installed at 2 of our facilities, Baywave and Greerton, before the end of last year, so just before Christmas we got that in and operating. And we're finding that it's actually working really well with our team. It uses cameras around the pools. Our lifeguards then have a smartwatch which triggers if there's any potential incident that's identified. And we had some feedback on that the other day, that our lifeguards have got an average response time of 6 seconds to be able to check that and respond to that. And that was ahead of the Australian and New Zealand average from that supplier, which was tracking at 10 seconds. So, yeah, just another tool that we've got in our armoury to help keep people safe. And then finally, just a note around our catering team. They do a fabulous job, and it was great that they got acknowledged with the Industry Supplier of the Year at the National 2025 Entertainment Venues Association Awards. So that recognised the work that went in there. I will note that we ceased our Healthy School Kai operation at the end of last calendar year, and that was in response to the Ministry of Education rolling out national contracts and doing things in a different way. But yeah, our catering team are doing a great job. Looking ahead, obviously we're all aware of the Moa landslide and the impact on the mountain hot pools. We're working really closely with Council around what that will look like. We are very keen to be able to reopen the facility if it is safe for us to do so, and so we understand there's landslide risk assessments being done to understand that, and we're doing our assessments to look at what would be required there. Financially, the economy's probably taken a bit of a hit with obviously the fuel situation at the moment, so we are watching that very closely in terms of how we track to budget, increasing costs and those kind of things. But like I say, we're confident for this year that we'll be on track. And then obviously we're still quite short on space and would love to have more facilities, and we're working closely with Council around significant projects to help alleviate that moving forward. And just wanted to acknowledge the work that the Council Steering Committee has done around the Memorial Park Aquatic Centre, and knowing that that's a work in progress as we look to advance that project as the opportunity arises. So those were the key things from us. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Carrack.
Thank you, Chad. In terms of customer satisfaction and looking at the 15%, 85% is satisfied, what are the key takeouts from that? What are the key issues? Is there any one, or is there a broad range of
I think
negatives?
the area that we probably struggle the most with is around Baywave, and I think it's predominantly because that place is so busy that it can be hard to deliver a really good customer experience when there are 450,000 people using the aquatic facilities. There's another 150,000 people using visits to the gym. So that's a really busy place, and at peak times it can be hard to keep everything clean and give people the experience that they're looking for. So that's probably our biggest challenge at the moment, and we're doing everything we can to try and manage that, but it can be tricky at times.
Councillor Rolleston.
Tēnā kōrua, thank you for your presentation, and also thank you for the work you guys did at some of these weather events, the Mangatawa evacuation and then the recent event. That probably leads me to, if you can clarify, because I thought you had a KPI of some nature around tangata whenua relationships, or MOU, and you haven't said that it's not on track or not being. How's that going? Is that work in progress?
Yeah, it is a work in progress. Thank you for the question. And it's definitely a key area for us to look at moving forward. We have advanced a number of things, and we've got a good plan that actually Carlo Ellis helped us develop and put together. We've probably paused things a little bit at the moment. We were looking to engage a Māori engagement lead to help us in that space. But given Council's working through some changes in how it manages Māori engagement, we're just waiting to see what comes out of the back of that before we make any further moves on that. But it's definitely a focus, and we're certainly trying to engage wherever we can, where that's appropriate to keep things moving.
Thank you. So, Chad, just on the financials we've got in the report, BVL's got you're actually doing quite a lot. You've got a less bad deficit. Is that the way you describe it? In terms of the hot pools, how much is that influencing the financials, or is there insurance for at least this year covering most of that? And otherwise, is there anything else that's influencing your financials?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple of things I had on the slide originally that are at an operating level. We've got a $30,000 deficit, and we are slightly, we're basically $30,000 better than we thought we were going to be. I know if you look in the financial table that's in the council report, it's got a much bigger number that's sitting in there. That relates to the capital expenditure in the renewals program and is a timing difference. So that will be on track by the end of the year. The impact of the hot pools, at this stage we do have business interruption insurance, which we are thinking will cover us through to the end of this calendar year. Beyond that, it becomes a challenge for us. But obviously we need to know what's going to happen with being able to reopen the hot pools.
And is that message public, that you're intending to reopen?
Yeah, we have talked about that. Of course, we'd love to open it. But again, we understand that there are a couple of other things in that. One is the safety element. So those landslide risk assessments are very key to that conversation. And on top of that, there's the financial side and also what the community's aspirations for the broader space are. But the messaging that we've had is that people love the hot pools and they'd love to see them open again.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, and nearly within our budgeted time. Thank you very much, Chad and Adam. Now we'll invite Rosemary and Sonia, please. Welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. It's fantastic to present to you today. Thank you very much for the opportunity. For those who don't know me in the audience, I'm Rosemary Prothero. I'm the chair of the Tauranga Art Gallery Trust. I'd like to speak quickly about our reopening because it's been the most exciting thing that's happened to us in the last 6 months. A bit closer. Yeah. Okay. And we'll need to rattle through because we've got a lot to talk about because it's an exciting time for us. So I just wanted to say to start off that over the first fortnight, when we reopened, we had 2,500 people came to the gallery and celebrated the reopening of our gallery. Our community was hugely behind us. It was in a fantastic range of events. There was a major pouri led by Mana Whenua. Thank you very much, Councillor Rolleston, for speaking at that. Very much appreciated. The next day there was a media preview. You will have seen the press. There was a civic evening with an inspiring talk by artist Darcy Nicholas and Chelsea Winstanley. And then on the 15th of November, we formally opened. Thank you very much, Mayor Drysdale, for officially opening the gallery. And it became part of a big community day. This marked the last step of what has been a significant journey for us, and we're deeply grateful to our principal funder, Tauranga City Council, for your leadership and investment in recognising the gallery's place as part of Te Manuataki o Te Papa. We're pleased to share with you our 6-month report ending 31 December 2025. There have been some changes to the board, and we have welcomed new Associate Trustee Tanya Berryman and Trustee Dave Gurungay. At the November meeting at our AGM, Rachel Scott, who's been a trustee for 3 years, was appointed as Deputy Chair, and I was reconfirmed as Chair. I'm also delighted to share that our aspiring Director, Grace Hekeria, whose term came to an end as an intern, is staying on as an observer until the end of this year to give her the opportunity to be part of the board while we're actually an operating board rather than a board in a redevelopment. Looking at our financial performance, revenue was greater than budget, mainly due to unbudgeted capital expenditure funding that was used for the soft fit out of the gallery. And that's seen in the central and local government line. The other revenue line includes fundings from the Tauranga Art Gallery Foundation, which was also capital expenditure for the redevelopment. Regarding expenses, there was an increase in previous year actuals as we're now an operational gallery. So that's seen increases in human resources, utilities, particularly power, and costs associated with the reopening of the gallery, such as events and promotion, that weren't budgeted to be in this financial year, but because the redevelopment was delayed from last year, it's fallen into this year instead. Sonia will take you through, just quickly, the non-financial results.
No, you don't need that in. It'll
Kia ora
power away.
koutou. Just looking at our KPIs, and I think it helps to just give a little bit of context here. When we set these KPIs back in March 25, we were actually meant to be opening the gallery in May, or 24 was it? So it meant that that impacted our finances and also our KPIs, and as you know, we opened in November. So that's why just over the financial year, something shifted. So of the 16, 12 are on track and 3 are completed, and I'm going to talk about some of the highlights and one still to be achieved. The one to be deferred to the next financial year is the development of our diversity framework. This is a piece of work I'm really committed to and have learnt through experience that it's really important to do this properly in the development and in the implementation. And so in the flurry of reopening the gallery, we're setting this for the next financial year so we can give it the time that it deserves. Yes, as Rosemary said, we completed an upgrade. After being closed for 2 years, we reopened with a welcoming new entrance, upgraded facilities and a seismically strengthened civic building. Keep your fingers crossed as we are finalists in the Property Council Awards and recently had the judges from the New Zealand Institute of Architects through the building as well. Of course, being in a new building does come with its challenges as we learn to adjust and to use the new facilities, and an example of this is the air conditioning took a while to settle, particularly with the humid summer that we had. As Rosemary mentioned, we opened with a big community celebration, and over the opening month received wonderful feedback from the community with people commenting on social media, "I can't believe how amazing our city is becoming," smiley face emoji, or "I absolutely love your little shop packed with so many gems," to "My daughter loved the holiday program and can't wait for the next one." Hugely popular has been the Darcy Nicholas exhibition and more recently Linley Dodd's storytelling sessions and our fully booked schools programs that we deliver in partnership with Tauranga City Libraries. It's been great to see the outreach work of our educators that they did when the gallery was closed come to fruition. And this year we've seen a number of first-time visits from kura such as Te Kura o Matapihi, Te Kura Kaupapa Māori o Otipo and Maunga Tapu Te Pūwhariki. By the end of 25, electronic doors, so keep in mind we've only been open for 6 weeks, added up 25,000 people who came to experience an exhibition, shopped in the retail or grabbed a coffee. As at the end of March this year, our total is 61,000. Now, by comparison, our best year was 2017 to 2018 previously, when we had 81,000 across the entire financial year. I thought I was going to get a round of applause for that one, but anyway, on to slide. We completed our Māori engagement framework in 23 and it laid out 8 recommendations, including raising staff cultural capability, to guidelines for engagement with mana whenua, to establishing an advisory group, which is Te Kahu o Hiniwa. I particularly wish to thank Te Kahu o Hiniwa members for their guidance and support of our Blessing Pōwhiri and our programs. Our observational statistics have seen a significant increase in Māori visitation to the gallery, and pictured here are the Te Aki Taonga students from Te Whare Wānanga. Reopening the gallery has seen us charging international visitor fees for the first time, $20 for people over the age of 18. This has resulted in nearly 12,000 in income from 628 visitors over the summer period. Just to give you kind of a comparison, this covers the cost of a small exhibition. And finally, I wanted to recognise the support we received from Tauranga City Council marketing and comms team as we built up and reopened the gallery. It was really great to work alongside around the launch, achieving some really positive and excellent coverage. Ngā mihi nui. Any questions?
Councillor Baker.
Hi, tēnā kōrua. First of all, great report, and it's cool to hear and see that, the art gallery is pumping. I guess my question is, I'm semi-leveraging my role as a counsellor, but my question is really as a parent. You're on your school program. It's funny, I've been speaking to parents from the kura that you have had. That program, because I attended with my daughter, is so cool. All the kids loved it. Even I loved it as a parent, but the ask is, as a reo-speaking household and with kids who are fluent in Te Reo Māori, it would just be so cool if the whole service is provided in Te Reo Māori. That would probably be my ask, if that is something that could happen, and I'm happy to connect you with people that could potentially do that. The facilitator was great, and she tried her best to do the dual thing, but I know the aspiration for a lot of our kura Māori, especially full immersion kura Māori, is that they want those opportunities, but it would just be even better if it was provided in Te Reo Māori. So I guess that's
We would love that. Kia ora. Thank you for that feedback. Hautapu.
Jackie.
Kia ora, thank you. Just looking back on your last report, back in November, well, that's the last one that I've looked at, sorry, just with regard to your implementation, you implement Māori engagement framework, and there was a role, was it the Kai Toho Tuhu Toi Māori role, and it said that it was going to be deferred, so you hadn't kind of met that KPI for that at that time. Has that role now been filled?
No, that role hasn't been filled for a couple of reasons. It's sometimes in the doing that you understand what's going to work best, and what we've discovered is actually the mātauranga that each of our advisory group members bring across a wide range, rather than asking one role to be everything across the gallery. And so right now we've been drawing on our advisory rōpū as well, and then secondly, with the reduction in funding, it really impacted our bottom line in regards to our resourcing of some roles. Yeah.
So still deferred, or just not on the thing anymore?
At this stage, we're just working with our advisory group. But in saying that, just coming back to how we work with specialists, for example, Nairo Eruera does all our translations for us. So we're working with different experts within the industry as well to be able to, I guess, give us the equivalent of what a role may have been. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think congratulations on the opening and the amazing 6 weeks you've had. I think I'm at least 6 of those times, and the door's been opened and closed, and that's and plus coffee, I think. So no, congratulations, and it's lovely to see it being used by the community outside of just what the gallery might have been intended for. So I had a lovely Flavours of Plenty event there last week. So well done. Thank you very much.
Kia ora.
And now we welcome Tourism Bay of Plenty, Russ and Oscar.
And Richard.
And Richard.
Right, stop clock. 10 minutes.
And your time starts now.
Oh, kia ora everybody. Kia ora tātou, thank you for the opportunity. I'm going to share our update around, so many of you will be familiar with Richard, our Head of Strategy and Insights, and our Chair, Russ Brown. Literally we're going to touch on a few slides each and then obviously be open to Q&A at the end. I suppose in the first instance, it's been a really busy, similar to Chad, a really busy and exciting time for us. Particularly as the government sort of in the last couple of months started to significantly ramp up its focus on tourism, events and hospitality, which hasn't been something that they were previously focused on. So, and also recently they've also added cruise to that as well, which I can update a little bit later. For us as your CCO, it's also been an extremely busy time, both in terms of our core BAU delivery and then some some very time-consuming special projects as well, such as the regional brand, the place brand that we've been charged to work on as well. So across all those, it's been an engaging time for the team. We'll get started, and I'll hand over to Richard to start us off. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Okay, first off, I'll just touch on the KPIs to date. So we're on track for delivering all of them, except one is at risk, and that's the economic wellbeing, which is no real surprise. You'll see there it was tracking down at minus 4.5% year on year, with the domestic market being the one that's hurting the most. International is up by quite a bit. It's up by 18%, so we're still seeing plenty of that. And as I said to you last time, the big change really is the rise of American tourists coming to visit us. But just to give you a slight update on that economic wellbeing, where we're sitting now to the end of March, it has improved slightly. So domestic's now down at minus 3.3, and international still about that 18% mark. And this graph just expands on this, so I won't go into too much detail, but you can see there for domestic, just for Tauranga it was down 9.7 and international was up 23.7. Cruise as well, so every year New Zealand Cruise Line Association does a report on the total cruise impact across New Zealand, and it breaks it down by region. So we've just received the 24-25 season one for that. And you can see there, spend-wise it's down, but the important thing to note is that overall the economic output is still over $100 million for our region. Flavours of Plenty, great to hear that people have attended that and enjoyed it. It's been a real success this year. Some highlights. 28 of the events have been sell-out events, so that's been really impressive. Over 2,000 tickets sold. We've had some really great partnerships, especially with the likes of the supermarkets, Pack and Save. When you go to the shelves now, you'll see Flavours of Plenty signage up there as well. So it's starting to really elevate right across the region. And now over to Oscar.
Goodbye. In terms of business events, so the new catchphrase for conferences, we've been working quite hard in that space. Many have not traditionally seen Tauranga or the Bay as a heavy conferencing destination. A lot of that's got to do with the accommodation perceptions or venues and so forth. So we've really leaned into what we are, not what we aren't. So for last wee while now, we've been running a strategy and campaign in partnership with Bay Venues and TCC Venues, Trinity, University of Waikato, Quest Hotels and others, out of the boardroom and into the blue. So really leaning into what is it that makes our part of the world, our part of paradise special, why things are different. And that campaign's been working really well. And even today, we've got conference organisers for milling or visiting the region with one of our managers going around and doing site inspections and so forth, which is nice and timely. As of last week, we have finally joined the rest of the country in terms of having a branded hotel in town. So we have now had the morphing of Armitage after a lot of significant investment. It is now a Mercure brand. So that brings the Accor stable into Tauranga, which is a great precursor for potentially others, whether in that stable or other international brands that we might attract over the next coming months. So that's a great position for us to be in. Very briefly, the other programs that we've delivered through the 6 months and continue to deliver, clearly the eyesight operations, we talked a little bit about that last week, but just want to acknowledge the team in terms of balancing out the cruise season. Pretty much for one more visit is pretty much over now, and we've had a really successful season there. Whilst some of the numbers are negative, us as a region is the only region that's held the numbers that we have. Many others have declined worse than we have. And it's really simple, is that we've had less ships visit, but the size and scale of the ships that we have visit have been bigger ones. So we've been quite fortunate, and that works quite well for our main streets and others as well. I won't go through line by line in terms of the rest of the programs and projects that we've delivered, but the one I do want to acknowledge is, and thank you all for that, the steward role that we've got around the regional place brand. It's an important milestone for us, and it's something that we've spent a lot of time and energy focusing on over the last 6 months, and no doubt we'll continue to do so. I'll now hand over to the Chair.
Kia ora. Thank you, Oscar. In terms of the board roles, we did have some transition coming up this year, so we did do a bit of work at the tail end of last year to lock in both my role and Janine's role to give us some good continuity through. So thank you for approving those 10-year extensions. They've both been approved, mine through to June 27 and Janine's as our Deputy Chair through to June 29. In our tangata whenua role, that comes to an end on the 30th of June, and we're underway with our recruitment process for that. Peter Blakeway has been with us for a while. He's been based in Australia for the last year. He will finish with us in April, in a couple of days. And then we've got our two new trustees in the form of Megan and Brian, who came on through a recruitment process about midway through last year. So all in all, a pretty solid trust board at the moment. The other role in there is the aspiring director role, which, as you've got with the other CCOs, we're supporting, and we have Michelle, who's been a great addition to the team since she's come on back in December. Next slide, please. You wanting me to talk to financials, Oscar? Oh. So our financial performance, our financial performance at this point of time is all in line with our budget. So we're expecting a forecast June 2026 result, which will be in line with budget. There has been some timing where we've been ahead of, I think, Jen, you mentioned before, better than negative is the way we describe it, but a better negative position than we were through to December. But timing means that we will pare some of that back, and we'll end up on line with budget by June 2026. All the other figures in there really speak for themselves. We're hitting our ratios that are required through the balance sheet. So financial position is sound for now.
Probably just one more comment on that, because I know the use of saying timing can be taken either way, but essentially for us it has been about timing. So we didn't really push too hard around certain things leading into summer, and we're now obviously looking at coming out of what's happened over summer as to where we can best invest. And multiply sort of word of mouth, campaigns and such, but also around this time it's the trade side of things, so it's really where trade starts ramping up. So that's why it is genuinely a timing thing. So we tend to spend more in this first quarter of the calendar year.
Thank you very much. My first question, KPIs for the brand development stewardship. Is there a KPI for it? I couldn't see it, and unless it's hidden somewhere in another KPI.
Specifically, other than our stewardship of it, I'm not sure we've actually crafted it, written in as a BAU KPI, principally because of the nature of the special project it is and the masters that we've got to sort of serve to it. So we haven't, other than it's mentioned in our letter of expectation and our delivery of it through to 30 June, and obviously now you've approved for us to keep going.
No, we haven't approved yet.
Oh, okay.
The annual plan hasn't been approved.
Right.
It's not approved until June.
Okay, so that's possibly why we haven't. Yeah, so it's not that we don't have that focus. It's ultimately because it has been a project that we've been doing in addition to our BAU.
And I guess if you don't have the KPI, we can't have the KPI with your agency, so it leaves it a little bit of quite a big investment of ours, of TCC's, that hasn't got a KPI. So I think that was just probably a loss on our side. We probably should need to, but that's fine. Any other questions, because we are out of time?
Jen, could I just talk to that just for a second? I guess that there's a separate committee that looks after the regional brand project, so that that sits separately and is a collaboration between Western Bay and TCC. As well as other commercial entities within TCC's environment. We can put a KPI in there, but it just hasn't been seen as Tourism Bay of Plenty's BAU. So we're very happy to put it in with the committee that stands and is in charge of delivering of that brand project, and I think that's the point we should take out of here. If that rolls into, with funding being successful, if that rolls into Tourism BOP, we'll put that into the next set of our ones as well.
This one's for you, Russ. Equity drop of about 400k. Can you just round that out, what that was?
Yeah, absolutely. That's us using reserves. With funding reductions over the last 18 months, that was us using reserves to retain a level of service, but with an eye to what point we needed to cut our cloth to retain a basic level of equity for working capital. Yes, yeah.
Councillor Carrack.
The upswing in the international visitation, what do you put that down to? Is it one thing or?
I think for the Americans, it's probably getting away from the guy they've got running the place. But I think that usually does happen when there is uncertainty and, all the exchange rate stuff, the dollar, that's a significant one. Just got back from, as you're aware, Australia last week. That's significant. So a lot of it's that, but it also goes to that comment I made when I first opened up about the government support. So a lot of those government levers, agency levers, opening up, working in travel visas from countries and so forth. It's really, we were out the gate late under the previous government, respectfully, and we're in a lot of catch-up mode. That's why we had the Minister of Tourism Hospitality in the US at Miami Sea Trade alongside the port last week. And then over in LA, the next, following that, launching a program we're involved with. That's the first time we've had a minister of the government active offshore with us. And so I think a lot of it's got to do with the positive messages they're pushing out.
Councillor Schuler.
Thanks for the report, guys. And also thanks for the flavours of Bay of Plenty. I've got to shout out to Solera and for Shaken by the Sea and Stirred by the Land. The cocktail night there was really, really great to be part of. So it's good to see these things. But my question is around the international cruise and us holding our own relative to other places. That's really good to hear. Have we got an inkling on what next year's looking like?
Yeah, we're starting to. So we've bottomed, we're pretty much on the bottoming out. So we are, and again, we can't underestimate the power of having a Minister of the Crown up in Miami talking to, Royal Caribbean and, and all the other cruise lines. And that's really what they wanted, when you're deploying billion-dollar craft around the planet and you're just simply looking at, okay, New Zealand's the furthest place to go and they've made it tough versus a lot of our passengers love going to New Zealand. It might be the furthest, but the government's making it easy. That's the change. So definitely we're seeing a plateauing out. I haven't caught up on all my reading yet, but we had some milestone reports from their time up in the US, and I'm the deputy chair of that board. So I haven't caught up with all the reports yet, but everything on the surface of the emails is positive.
Councillor Baker, then Councillor Rolleston, and then we're finishing questions.
Yeah, quick question. Tēnā koutou. Keen as to improve domestic tourism as an area of obvious improvement. My question is, have we considered, I guess with the rise of actual influencers and how much impact they have we considered adopting what other big organisations do with bringing them in to promote our city and our place? Because we have a few really high-profile locals that live on our back doorstep.
Yeah. Kia ora, Councillor. Awesome question. So we already do quite a lot of social media influencers at the moment, particularly through Tourism New Zealand and such, and working with them. But absolutely, we've got a dearth of artists and musicians and people that... so that has been one of the things that's sort of targeted in our Out of the Boardroom and Into the Blue. So we've got some things targeted there. But to answer your question, you'll probably see a lot more of that because I won't say it's that much cheaper, but it can be quite impactful, particularly when you see the likes of the follow-through and the follow-on. So as an example, the great work that the TCC events team did to attract Fisher here was fantastic. the mere fact that Fisher posted on his social channels him with his baby at the beach and him having something to eat down at Wall Street and everything else, that got massive feedback. So we definitely know the value of social media and we'll work on that, but you should see more of that coming.
A quick one. So you've got that picture, and we all miss that maunga. Cruise ships and things. Do you have any guesstimate of what that might mean? Because I asked actually the Port of Tauranga at the Tauranga Moana around what that might mean. I guess they're coming on big cruises and they're going everywhere, but they come around the corner, they see that maunga and it's in a draw card. And we obviously know about the event. Richard was there the other night. So factoring that in, thinking, what's the thinking there in terms of the fact that it's going to be some time till it reopens in the hot pools as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we took the lead from the 5:30 press conference that you did 3 days after the event, which was well timed, when the Mayor made the comment, Mowell's respectfully closed, but Mount Maunganui, Tauranga and the west of the bay is open. And we've been focusing on that message. So for us, really, that's the message we took up to the cruise ships as well. So the popularity of walking around the Mount can't be understated. We all know that. However, we've reinforced a lot of the other things that there is to do, and also we're working with, even working with other entities and providers to create other experiences that people can do in their day stop travel. As an example, we've been working with one or two mana whenua who are now they've been included in Flavours of Plenty around gifts of the whenua and talking about horticultural tours and things like that. So we're just trying to think a bit more out of the square. But ultimately, the most important thing is we're keeping Tourism New Zealand and other offices abreast of when announcements and changes are made. We'll get that into the pipe.
Thank you very much. And keep up the good work.
Kia ora, thank you.
Which I am not saying to the others who have spoken before, but and now invite Te Manawataki o Te Papa Limited, Graham. Didn't think I'd seen you in the gallery, I could see. Oh, and Puiraki, sorry. I haven't been given full information.
Afternoon. Firstly, apologies from our board chair, Kim Wallace, who unfortunately can't be with us today. I would like to acknowledge the Otamataha Trust behind me, Puiraki, Emily, Ra and Alan, who obviously the board and TCC project teams enjoy a really close working relationship with, and I'd like to acknowledge their contribution to Te Manawataki o Te Papa, the board and delivery of those projects generally. I'll very, very quickly run through a few slides and then open for questions. Starting with a few highlights and achievements. Project delivery, obviously at the end of 2025, saw completion of a number of important projects. It was great to hear earlier from Bay Venues about Haumaru and the Tauranga Art Gallery Trust about the art gallery. Fair to say we all know in this room that those two projects threw up their challenges and highlighted the risks associated with redeveloping old buildings, but it was great to hear firsthand from them the sort of benefits that the community is now seeing with the completed projects. We're also well aware of the progress which has been happening down on Site A with both the Library Com Hub and the CWEM building. Library Com Hub is really moving into a final phase now of completion. Rooms and spaces are being completed, defected and protected, and we're on track for practical completion at the end of June, following which we'll move in and do a fit out, and the building's on track for opening mid-October, so that's progressing fast. As is CWEM, you'll see the structural skeleton is now fully in place, and that project's moving through to a phase of completion of the rest of the timber, and then into building services and internal services of the building. So both of those projects are moving on at pace. The board has had a real strong focus on health and safety, ensuring both from a systems and process point of view that good, effective systems are in place, actively carrying out due diligence site visits, and also implementing and overseeing deep dive reviews in terms of high risk things like working at height, hot works elements and things like that. I've mentioned the Otamataha Trust, but obviously the board have enjoyed strengthening relationship with other key stakeholders as well, elected members, other council teams, other CCOs, and things like that. In terms of the performance targets and financial positions, glad to say all 17 performance targets are currently tracking on track. And in terms of the board's costs and expenses, slightly under budget, and we expect to remain, on budget for the remainder of the financial year. In terms of future focus, looking ahead, project delivery obviously will be a key one with, as I say, completion of the Com Hub coming up for October, continuation of the CWEM building, and also hopefully commencement of the Strand Whariwaka, precinct landscaping and street works, and the Mora Park Aquatic Centre. Continue to focus on prioritise risk management. An example which is getting focused at the moment is obviously geopolitical factors in terms of our project delivery. We think we're sitting in a good position in terms of a lot of materials have been procured early and advanced. So we're hopefully sitting well, but that continues to remain something on the board's radar, as will health and safety and wellness and value for money through continued sort of project delivery and procurement. And obviously continue to strengthen those relationships with contractors, council teams, CCOs, and the trust. I think that's really all I had, so I'll keep it short and sweet and just open for questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Graham? Councillor Baker.
Kia ora. So, don't know if it's appropriate here, but there was a lot of public interest about an internal slide. Is there any progress on that?
I think we're getting cheeky on that side of the table.
It is still in progress. The question was asked and raised. I think, in fairness, the answer was that if that was something that was truly continues to be of interest, then it's likely to be best looked at once the project is complete and opened, because otherwise, given consenting, delivery, staging requirements, it's likely to impact the opening dates and practical completion. So I think that's where we landed on it.
Thank you very much. And it's fantastic just seeing the development happening, and I hadn't seen the opening, but saw that on when I went to the art gallery for a Flavours of Plenty event the other night, and it just looked beautiful.
Yeah, and I didn't mention, but the Wahara opening 2 weeks ago was a highlight as well. A really awesome project in terms of a gateway between the harbour and up to Te Manawataki o Te Papa, and so that was a really
it looks beautiful.
Really cool project as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And now Te Manawataki o Te Papa Charitable Trust. And we're welcoming Ra, Emily, Puiraki and Alan. Welcome. We did have a funny situation this morning because we had policemen at that table, and I had to say to them, red means go in this place.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me.
I would refer to Councillor Rolleston, please.
Tēnā koe te rangatira, e mihi poto ki a koe, anei te kaunihira ki te mihi ki te mana whenua I tēnei wā, hoi anō, e mihi poto ki a koutou. Te tareti o Otamataha, nā hapu, nā Tamara Waho, nā Ti Tapu, koutou katoa, nā mihi kawana ki a koutou. Te te mana haupea, tēnei te mihi ki a koe ara, pai ki te tō ingoa i roto i tēnei ropu. Kāore he ro te mihi hoi anō ko te tikanga o tēnei teipu, ko tai mai te mana whenua, he mihi. Tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe. E tuatahi, tēnā koe e te tiamana. Jen, kei te mihi atu ki a koe. Te mea, mahe, nā mema o te poari, o te kaunihera. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Nā kaimahi o te kaunihera, tēnā koutou. Ki a koe hoki, hemi, tēnā koe. Kei te mihi atu ki a koe mo tō whakatau tō mihi kia mātou. Te mema o te awa nui, o te mana whenua, o te tangata whenua mema hoa hautapu tēnā koe. Tēnā koe, kei te mihi atu ki a koe. So welcome to everybody and thank you very much for allowing us this time to showpiece what we've done thus far. And on behalf of Ngāti Tapu, Ngāi Te Marawaho, Te Mate Rawaho, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity we've had to input into the cultural advice and environment for the work that we've undertaken with the council in terms of the artwork, the design, the po, the carvings and everything else which makes it part of us in Tauranga for mana whenua, tangata whenua and for the whole community. And on that, I'd like to now pass it over to our two directors who are going to give our presentation today, Ra and Emily. Tēnā koe, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, tēnā tata katoa.
Kia ora.
Kia ora pohi. Tēnei te mihi ki a koutou katoa. He mihi hoki ki a koe, he mi kua mihia I tēnei ahi no reira tēnā tātou. So just a quick recap. You'll be pleased to know that we don't have a budget item, so we won't need to go through that in detail. So Te Manuataki o Te Papa Charitable Trust was set up 3 years ago, or just under 3 years ago, or just over 3 years ago in October 2022. It was set up between Otamataha Trust and the council, and the whole aim was to recognise the history of this area in Te Papa, and as the development continues, that history is recognised through different artworks and recognising the history as we go. So there are 3 key areas that that the trust is involved with. We support and encourage the development of a vibrant civic precinct, and probably the main one is the second one is to ensure that that the project respects and reflects the significant history and importance of the area to mana whenua, and to foster positive stakeholder relationships. There were 3 key deliverables, and there's been one added on since the last year. So it's an annual review of that statement of intent, currently 2025 to 2028, an annual review and audit, review, and this is probably our biggest one, the review of the redevelopment projects. And we do work closely with Te Manuataki o Te Papa Limited. We work closely with the managers and staff. And I think what that has done is it's actually helped to contribute some really successful outcomes. So instead of what may have happened on other projects, that the cultural aspect gets tacked on at the end, we are involved right from the design stage through to the fabrication, the implementation, and then the opening. So all the way through that has that goes through. And so it's been a really good relationship with Otamataha and Te Manuataki o Te Papa. Just one new deliverable that Emily will touch on in a minute is with all of this artwork and history that is being created, how do we capture that knowledge so that the wider community can understand and look at something but actually understand the depth of meaning behind each of those artworks. And so just on that, actually before we go on to that one, probably one key milestone that that has been achieved is the Waharoa, and so Pohi is going to briefly talk about that. Kōrero.
Very briefly being the optimum words. The whare waka is a great opportunity for us to showcase our waka that we have in the moana. Now, there are current wakas and there are future wakas that we... the Waharoa. That has been the first milestone that has been completed for this project just the other week, and it was an awesome morning to be able to see that in all its glory in terms of the early part of the morning as the sun was coming up. Incidentally, the library hub lights were turned on just before the light came over the horizon, and it just added to how it looked at that time of the morning. I'm not suggesting that everybody should be going around town at that time of the morning just to have a look at it, but to actually see it like that was really amazing. The Waharoa is very significant in terms of how we've started off this project by putting our tupuna up front and centre in a position which welcomes people into the city via the sea. And we've always talked about the connection between the sea, the shoreline, and the civic centre precinct itself. And of course, walking up through there is a great way to begin your journey, having just arrived in Tauranga, for Māori and for other community people. Thank you.
Kia ora, and I just forgot to acknowledge our kaumātua in that picture there, Peri Kohu, who some of you will remember, and he was instrumental in Te Manawataki o Te Papa Charitable Trust and O Tamataha being involved in this. So I'll hand over now to Emily.
Thank you. Kia ora koutou. So I'm just going to round it off with the remaining 2 minutes 40 seconds that I have left. This is in relation to the capturing those narratives. So we've talked about, the Te Manawataki o Te Papa projects are starting to take that visible form across our CBD. And as such, the cultural dimensions are also coming to life in a very meaningful way. The Charitable Trust committed earlier on to capturing those narratives behind each piece of artistic work and creating a repository of pūrākau as shared by our Te Kāhui Toi. So the next step now is to move from collection to activation. And we need a considered approach as to how those stories are held, experienced, and of course shared. It could include a mix of platforms, spoken recordings to retain voice, nuance, and to your point, Councillor Baker, te reo Māori. Written formats for accessibility and permanence, and digital channels to extend the reach. Potentially there's an opportunity to embed QR codes that we've talked about at sites that allows people to access those stories in situ, and or develop a curated virtual library that brings those narratives together in a very cohesive and enduring way. At the same time, we also know that we have to ensure appropriate cultural guardianship sits alongside this project. The authenticity, the context, the mana of these pūrākau must be protected as we make them available to the wider audience. So what we would need to propose is to elevate this to a defined work stream, clear scope and delivery pathway. It may include allocating a dedicated budget to support content capture, platform development and ongoing stewardship. It requires a strong commitment from the Charitable Trust to initiate and champion this work. It's not just a communications exercise for us. It's about safeguarding and sharing those cultural narratives, which essentially underpin the entire program that we know it'll add depth, connection, lasting value to everything we're building. At this point, I want to extend our acknowledgement to the wider Te Manawataki o Te Papa team, the board, the council staff. Māori, you've got a really strong team, and we've grown some really strong relationships with them. Thank you. The contractors with whom we've fostered some meaningful relationships with, and we get to meet them on the regular, so thank you, Graham, Sershin, who was here. And of course yourselves, elected members, as our partners in governance and land ownership. Kia ora koutou.
Kia ora. Thank you very much. Any questions? You've covered it all beautifully. Thank you very much, and congratulations on the progress being made. We now welcome Boplas and Chief Executive Stephen Boyle. Welcome.
Tēnā koutou katoa, and thank you for the opportunity to update the committee on Boplas and the value being delivered to TCC and our other 8 shareholding councils. And a quick thank you for social catch-up beforehand. I thought it was a really good idea too. Our Chair, Craig O'Connell, provides his apologies. Unfortunately, he's unable to make it today. It's been a successful first half of the year for Boplas and ultimately for our shareholding councils, with a number of new initiatives undertaken in the first 6 months of this year. The first 6 months of this year have involved a high level of collaboration between Boplas councils, and particularly through the Boplas advisory groups, but also collaboration outside of our region, with a number of initiatives being developed in conjunction with Manawatu Wanganui-LAS, which is MWLAS, and Waikato Council's CoLab. The first 6 months have been particularly busy for us, with several new initiatives undertaken, and additionally a number of new contracts have been entered into or renewed, which provides incremental savings to all of our member councils. A list of our current projects is on pages 6 to 8 of our half-yearly report. I'm certainly not going to talk to all of them, but I'd like to use this opportunity to provide the committee with an overview of some of our current key projects and successes. The first is ongoing developments of collective opportunities within solid waste management. When I provided an update to the committee at the end of last year, I gave an overview of the WOLDS project that we're leading on behalf of Boplas and Waikato councils. WOLDS is an acronym for Waste Operator and Licensing Data System, and that project is going to deliver centralised management of waste operators across the Waikato, Bay of Plenty and Gisborne councils, and we also have a number of councils from outside of the 2 regions looking to participate in that project. The shared service will benefit councils and waste contractors by establishing consistent standards across the region, more accurate reporting of waste streams, and providing improved waste data to councils. It will also reduce the amount of administration required by council staff. Since launching this project, councils across the Waikato and Bay Boplas regions have now agreed to undertake a separate cross-regional waste strategy and waste infrastructure project. The regional strategy seeks to address the challenges of increased waste disposal going to landfill and enable the transition to a more circular economy, but with a cross-regional view rather than just being undertaken by a single council. This is a significant step towards addressing shared and growing challenges associated with waste generation, disposal and resource recovery across both regions. The project also recognises the opportunities to collaborate in the development of waste infrastructure. This cross-regional project is being led by Waikato Regional Council with support from CoLab and Boplas. The half-yearly report highlights the success of the Boplas Collective Insurance Program, and particularly the renewals that were undertaken late last year, as an outstanding outcome was achieved in November with over $2 million of premium savings banked directly by Boplas councils when compared with premiums paid in the year prior. In addition to the savings, we were also able to negotiate improved insurance terms for all of our councils. I indicated this recent significant success when I updated the committee last November, as it is a particularly good outcome for TCC and for the other Boplas councils, especially considering we're in a market where most organisations are facing significant increases to the cost of their insurance, and some councils are even struggling to get insurance at all. Insurance represents a significant spend for councils, so it's pleasing to be able to provide these noteworthy savings and benefits through collaborating with neighbouring councils. Earlier this year, Boplas was asked if we could include the new Bay of Plenty Water CCO within our collective insurance program. The Boplas board agreed that this made good commercial sense, and so that service has now been made available. The final project I'll quickly mention is Boplas has been working with CoLab on the development of a business case for a regional building consent authority, a regional BCA. Central government has signalled reforms aimed at streamlining building consent processes, introducing regional consenting authorities, and shifting liability settings to a proportionate model. These changes align with the collaborative direction many councils have already been pursuing, and this reinforces the need for a scalable, shared solution. Developing a solution in conjunction with CoLab provides opportunities for Boplas councils to complete a more cost-effective evaluation of BCA consolidation options and avoid duplication of effort across the regions, while allowing us to capitalise on the work already undertaken in the Waikato. This opportunity will continue to be developed over the next few months. So that's a very quick snapshot of some of our key projects, but as I mentioned, there is an extensive list of other projects within our half-yearly report, and I'm happy to take any questions on those. Financial performance, the company is tracking close to budget with a small deficit of 4,200 reported after the first 6 months. We expect to finish the year close to budget. We're also on target to achieve all of our financial or non-financial performance measures. Happy to take questions.
Sounds a very good report, thank you very much. And just on the insurance, that is, in this climate, very impressive getting that savings last year, so well done, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Just following on with the insurance thing, any inkling as to what our recent events are going to do to our insurance policies, and what do you think in the longer term we're going to have issues about getting cover for things like the motor camp and the hot fall, for example? Too early to tell? Or?
Specific assets will have to be assessed on their individual risk. The impact onto TCC's overall insurance would be minimal. In the eyes of our insurer, it's the very reason we have insurance, that events happen from time to time. And while it's a significant event for the council, it's not a major event that would have a huge impact on premiums through the insurer's eyes. And one of the advantages that TCC have is by being part of a larger group, we offer them a real diversification of risk. So it's not just TCC as a standalone policy, they still look upon us as a group, and TCC's claim just being one part of that.
Councillor Rolleston, then Councillor Carrack.
I think you beat me, Rick, but mine is about insurance. I'll stay on the topic. Last week at our Tangata Whenua Standing Committee, we sort of learned to what we knew, but we reinforced a lot of marae without insurance. But Boplas came up as somebody to talk to. Not saying therefore we should be paying for marae insurance, but I guess I'm probably asking you to cut, because I'd say it prevails right across marae and Bay of Plenty. And the main probably reason was they're the sort of, in most cases when the civil defence emergencies, they're our sort of, so it's port of call, but it's ironic they don't have that for whatever reason. So I wonder if you have any comment, or whether it's just something you can ponder on around how we might be able to leverage our relationships to assist them. Any thoughts on that, or is it something you can ponder on?
Yeah, I probably couldn't answer that question right now, but I'd be really keen to have a conversation, because there would definitely be an opportunity there to be explored. So yeah, happy to engage around
it. Thank you, Stephen. In terms of the Waikato Regional Council's proposal around solid waste, do you know of the disposal? What are they talking about? Would it be a new landfill, or there's talk over the Waikato about a like incineration, or I can't recall the name of the project, but what are we talking about in terms of the disposal of solid waste?
Well, that's one option, but I guess just to be clear that the waste strategy is across Waikato and Bay of Plenty, so it's not being driven by Waikato Regional Council. Obviously, they're a participant in it. The strategy will look at the different types of infrastructure and what the different options are. At the moment, a large percentage of Bay of Plenty waste goes to the Waikato, so those conversations will be looking at what the options are around that, but there's nothing on the table at this stage. So, yeah.
No further questions. Thank you very much, Stephen.
No problem, thank you.
And keep up the good work. And now welcome Cameron Walker, Relationship and Credit Manager for Water for Local Government Funding Agency.
Thank you all. I realise this is maybe the first time that the LGFA has spoken to Tauranga City Council. With that in mind, I have a relatively short presentation. However, I'm expecting there will be a few questions after this.
No, we have had Catherine speak to us, so we have, you're not the first, but you're very important still.
Sorry, well, thank you. First external from LGFA. So our GFA is a CCO with 31 shareholders, the Crown being one, and then 30 other council members. Our GFA is the primary funding mechanism for local government within New Zealand. We have almost 80% share of the funding market. Once you exclude Auckland, that's in the high 90%. However, Auckland is the largest borrowing council in the country, so make up a significant portion of that. Within our GFA, we lend to councils as well as CCOs. A structural change within our GFA is lending to CCOs, and that's going to put a different spin on our GFA's lending arrangements in the future with water CCOs coming on board. We currently have we had 8 CCO members. We've got 10 now, as 2 CCOs have recently joined, and we're expecting that number to be in the mid-20s once all water CCOs are on board by mid-2027. Within our GFA's last 6 months, we have, sorry, I'm on the wrong screen here. We have diversified our funding arrangements from being a New Zealand and Australasian-based issuer to being a European issuer as well as in the USA. That gives us a greater diversity in our funding arrangements to ensure we don't come up against refinancing risks. I know from a council's perspective, our GFA eliminates a lot of the refinancing risk, but within our own operations, we need to diversify our funding to ensure that we eliminate our own risk there. Part of eliminating our refinancing exposure is the repurchasing program that our GFA is running at the moment. We repurchase our bonds a year out from maturity to ensure that our GFA isn't exposed to significant refinancing once those bonds do mature. We have had a very successful last 6 months. We are tooling up the organisation for growth. We have brought additional resource in, and we have also developed a new sustainable water lending product as well as a cash advance facility. Our cash advance facility is essentially an overdraft but through our GFA rather than a commercial bank, as many councils will have their cash advance facility through. We have also increased our Crown liquidity facility. That is a backstop facility that our GFA never intends on calling, but from a rating agency's perspective and an international investor makes our GFA bonds a whole lot more attractive. That has increased from $1.5 billion to $3 billion, and the term of that has increased from October 31 out to June 37. So it's a significant backing from the Crown to say we're here to back our GFA and we're here to stay. we offer a very reasonable borrowing arrangement for local government, and the Crown is willing to support that, and they've shown that support through increasing the standby liquidity facility that we hold. Our GFA has had a significant financial result in the last 6 months. We are tracking, in the last 6 months we had a operating profit up 90% on what we had forecast. A couple of reasons for that is we had tried to mitigate our interest rate exposure, and all of those fell on the positive side of what we had planned. So we put hedges in place to ensure we don't get caught out, and they all came up trumps for us. That will not happen every year. The reason we put hedging in place is to mitigate that, and we expect there will be some that don't go the way we want, but this year everything came up the way we wanted. We will miss on 2 of our SOI targets. One of those is our operating expenses. Our GFA has incurred significant operating expenses this year relating to the setup of water CCOs. We acknowledge the legal expenses relating to those were greater than what we had forecast, but our GFA is comfortable wearing those given the transformation going through the sector. And we will also miss on our 80% lending to the sector target given Auckland's size. Once Auckland is excluded, we are in the high 90s, but with Auckland included, we lend to 79-ish% of all councils. Of all council debt. That is all I have at the moment, but I do welcome questions if there are any from the
Thank you very much, Cameron. Councillor Carrack.
And I do welcome you. It's nice to see a member up here. I assume you're Wellington-based?
Auckland.
Auckland-based?
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of Wellington, have you got an inside word on the RAS? Does government intend to deliver that in its term or not?
I wish I had the answer for you. We don't know the central government timeframe on that one there. From our GFA's side, we've done the modelling, we are committed to it. We just need central government to give a timing on it. So the short answer is no, I don't have a date for you.
There being no other questions, thank you very much for the update.
I believe I'm up here next. Do you want me to go away and then come back? Or?
No, you can stay right there if you'd like to. Oh, well, we do. Are we inviting Caro back up to take the paper, or are there any questions of the paper that haven't been asked yet? That being the case, we have got a motion, if we can put that up, please. Page 100 it must be. There was actually just one comment in terms of there's a KPI in Tauranga Art Gallery Trust that says that which they reported on, that they are to promote that TCC is a major funder across all of their channels, and I think that's a really great KPI to have on all our CCOs, that we are significant funders for. So I did talk to my colleagues and nobody objected to that, so that's just something, if you don't mind taking that into account next time, please, that would be really good. It's in the Tauranga Art Gallery Trust, the wording, it's really good. So we have got a motion to receive the report, the half-year reports, the comprehensive revenues and expenses financial information, and noting we are a joint shareholder of Tourism Bay of Plenty. And we've moved by Mayor Mahe, seconded by Councillor Morris. Do you want to speak to it? All of those in favour, please say aye. And those against, that is carried. Thank you. So now we're going to page 113, Local Government Funding Agency Draft Statement of Intent 2026-27 to 2028-29.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will take my report as read, but Cameron just has a few slides that he wishes to share with you just to highlight the LGFA's draft statement of intent. So I'll just hand over to Cameron.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Done my introduction before, so we don't need that again. But as a CCO, LGFA is required to produce a draft statement of intent to circulate to all shareholders. We produced our draft statement of intent in February and circulated to shareholders. LGFA over the next 3 years sees a significant shift in our business. I touched on it before, from pure council lending to water CCOs. We are expecting our lending book to increase to approx $27 billion by the 30th of June 2029. However, that figure will change as we see water services strategies come into play from water CCOs. We intend to finance water CCOs within the local government sector. We are seeing flux in those borrowing values. However, to mitigate the borrowing that will come through from local government and water CCOs in the next 3 years, we are diversifying our funding sources. I touched on those before. We've moved outside of Australasia. We currently fund 65% of our long-term debt in New Zealand, and the remainder 35% of that offshore. However, we are expecting to see that funding mix change over the next 3 years as the New Zealand market has been saturated by ourselves and the Crown. We need to move offshore to ensure that liquidity. The credit ratings of LGFA remain tied to the Crown, and that's partly because of that Crown liquidity facility I spoke about earlier. That ensures the rating agencies look upon LGFA favourably. We have a diversified source of funding as well as borrowers within the local government sector, and we have specific requirements in place to ensure we don't capitalise too much within one council, such as Auckland Council. We have requirements that we cannot lend more than 40% of our book to Auckland Council. We have been recently placed on negative outlook. These slides don't reflect that because they have come, those rating actions have been made recently and they are tied to the Crown's rating. We can't be rated higher than the Crown. We'd like to be, but we can't. And within our SOI over the next 3 years, we are introducing new products, which will be, once again, I feel like I'm tying two presentations into each other, but we have a sustainable water lending product, which is very similar to our climate action loans and our green and social loans. However, that's tied specifically to water products lending for the water CCOs that are coming on board. We are retooling the LGFA organisation to put greater resource into dealing with council relationships, as well as developing our products to ensure that councils are always getting the best deal for their financing from LGFA. Just a slide on our lending levels, and to explain the variation in here, We are expecting to lend more to councils than we are expected to raise over the next 3 years. The discrepancy in that is over the last year, councils haven't been borrowing as much as forecast. We have built up a significant liquid asset portfolio. Best way of thinking about it is there's cash in our bank, so we don't need to raise as much as we will lend out. That discrepancy in there will ensure we maintain a liquid asset portfolio but can still lend to councils as we go through. And I have a couple of slides just on the waters aspect of our GFA's business, as that's going to be quite a significant part of what we're doing in the next 3 years and in the foreseeable. We will be lending to an expected 18 water CCOs over the next 2 years. We have 5 of those expecting to start 1 July this year, with the remainder 13 starting on 1 July 2027. That is a departure from where our GFA had been just lending to councils, and we need to have a whole lot more oversight on lending to water CCOs as they come in, to ensure we protect our shareholders and our shareholder risk, and ensure that we aren't letting water CCOs get into financial trouble. We now have 2 water CCOs who are members of our GFA, very recent members, and we're expecting at least 2 more to join by 1 July this year. I'm hoping for 3, but we'll see how that third one goes. And with that, there's a slight change to the guarantee arrangements for water CCOs in our GFA, where all shareholding councils guaranteed that CCO and then the wider LGFA. But those, I can get into the nitty-gritty details of those with the officers, and also do a separate presentation to council if that is required. Are there any questions on our GFA's SOI over the next 3 years? And
Mahe.
Yeah, I'm just interested with going abroad. Are you hedging all the currency risk, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we, as soon as we issue offshore, we hedge the 100% straight away.
Cool.
Councillor Crowther.
Yeah, can you expand on the sustainable waters lending products? Because I've got my head around the climate ones, but what exactly are we talking about there?
Now, I can give you a headline overview. I can't say I'm a sustainable specialist, but there are criteria that, sustainable criteria that the CCO will need to meet to access the sustainable, it's called a SWALE, our Sustainable Water Action Loan. There is one mandatory criteria piece, and then 3 others that one needs to be elected from. We are finalising the metrics of those with stakeholders within the sector, as well as central government agencies.
So will they be, through the chair, will they be in addition, like extra obligations that council or that CCOs would have to do over and above Tūmata Arawai, or over and above the Commerce Commission, all the other things that will, in the government's words, make it sustainable anyway?
Our intention is that it shouldn't be any more than the CCO is doing for other agencies. So the reason we are working with the other agencies and commissions is so we can piggyback on their reporting metrics to build it into our sustainable product.
Then I guess what is it, just greenwashing?
No, they so Tamata Arawai's requirements mean that a CCO should, or sorry, any water provider should be meeting a certain standard. This may be something we want to take offline, because I can get quite technical on it. I can speak to you after if you'd like. Yes. Yeah.
Jackie.
Kia ora. I think Councillor Carruthers stole half of my question there a little bit. And I'm just mindful of the paper itself, how there isn't a actual Te Ao Māori lens over the paper, but I'm just wondering, under the draft SOI, has there been any consideration on how that will be factored in, given, for example, what was mentioned around CCO and Local Waters Done Well, around the essentially showing how there should be an embedding of Te Ao Māori perspectives under Te Mana o Te Wai, but also how you look at entities that are going to be onboarded. So I'm just wondering if there is anything articulated in the SOI that relates to that.
Not specifically in our SOI. When onboarding entities, we leave it up to the specific CCOs how they want to choose to incorporate that. We will review the governance structures, but it is not our place to enforce a standard or suggest a standard to specific CCOs or councils.
Yeah, okay. I was just thinking, because with the role of a CCO, there's still the need to sort of uphold the principles in conjunction with the LGA, which does look around what that partnership model with Mana Whenua looks like, particularly in conjunction with Te Mana o Te Wai. So, yeah, it's a bit blurry, I guess, that statement of intent, whether or not there should be some sort of embedding of those principles.
That is not something that I have a direct answer for you. I can look into it further, but no, it's my understanding that our statement of intent doesn't cover that.
Thank you.
I did have a question on the rating assistance scheme, but you have answered that previously. So that being the case, thank you very much, Cameron. Thank you for the report. So we have a recommendation that we receive the report, receive the statement of intent, the letter to its shareholders on the statement of intent, and the ability to give feedback directly. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that motion that's now on the board? Moved by Councillor Taylor, seconded by Councillor Schuler. Do you want to speak to it? All of those in favour, please say aye. Aye. And those against, that is carried. Thank you very much to all. We're now going to 10.8, page 133, annual ratepayer survey, and we're looking for Josh Logan to join us. Welcome, Josh.
Good afternoon. The wave 3 for the resident survey, the executive summary highlights it fairly well. There's incremental improvements from last time, and the year-to-date stays relatively the same, but also slight improvements. Take the report as read, and if there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Also just noting the addition of the net scores to the previous years from Councillor Carruthers' last comments from last time.
Any questions? Councillor Kurak.
Yes, thank you. On the small renter sample, what do you put that down to? Why is it not proportional to the proportion of renters out there in the residential world?
I would have to double check with key research on that, but I assume it's just the amount of people that have answered the survey, the low amount of them rent.
I had a comment, it's not a question, but I'm the chair, so I'm allowed to say it. I just noted on point 9 that perceptions of cycling safety have decreased significantly to 45%, so that it's backing up our request for the organisation to have a cycling strategy around Tauranga. So I guess we're happy with incremental increases. They're a lot better than other way round. I think we had a pretty good conversation about this on the last report. Thank you very much. There being no other comments, I've got a recommendation to receive the report, the annual resident survey wave 3 results. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Baker, and a seconder, Councillor Rolleston. Do you want to speak? All those in favour, please say aye.
It's not debate, but if I can raise a matter. When it comes to rates affordability, a couple of weeks ago I was speaking to a lady who asked, is it possible to have a cap on the rate? She pays 20,000 rates, and I'm also aware that there are some that pay like 30,000 a year in rates. Is that something which is possible, to put up a cap on any property can't pay more than, say, 20,000? Is that something which is viable, or?
Why would you do that?
Whether we want to do
It's
it or
all
not
based
is another
on-
question, but I said I'll get back to her in terms of, are we able to do it?
I don't understand why you would.
I don't think you could, unless you're going to underrate, because. Yeah. Well, it makes, yeah.
Certainly not under our current policy. I'm not sure whether you could do it under legislation either, under the Rating Act. Yeah.
So,
Probably a Jim question.
yeah. Did you record that as a vote of, we passed it? I went too fast for Rick.
You haven't carried it.
Okay, we haven't done it. So all of those in favour of the resolution, please say aye. And those against, that is carried. Sorry, Councillor, correct, I was too fast. Okay, we are now moving to 10.9 Main Street Monitoring Report for the period 1 July 25 to 31 December 25, page 161, and we're welcoming Kendall Sullivan, I should say surnames. 161.
Good afternoon, councillors. Happy to take my report as read and just here to answer questions. Thank you.
So I know that you have commented on some of the feedback you've got and from how Main Streets are set up, and we are proactively having a look at that. And it's good to see the comments about the variability sometimes of Main Streets responding to requirements. If you did need help to get some of that information, I think there would be a general feeling that there are those of us around that know the Main Streets well enough to help that if necessary. So I just wanted to let you know on that one. Other questions on Kendall's report? Okay, thank you very much. So we have got a recommendation to receive the reports for Main Streets, for Tauranga, for Mount Business Association, for Papamoa Unlimited, and for Greerton Business Association, July to 31st December 2025. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Schuler, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those, or do you want to speak? All those in favour, please say aye. And those against, that is carried. Thank you. I believe there's no late items. Can I have a mover and a seconder to go into public excluded, please? Moved by Mayor Mahe, seconded by Councillor Rolleston. All those in favour and against? Thank you.